I want to tell you a story that I've not had to tell for a really long time, but I have to say that I've not felt more inclined to tell this story until today. And there is a really good reason as to why. So I want to get right into the fact that this is going to be about kink and BDSM and whatever you want to call it. This whole lifestyle is being pushed by certain influencers as a fad. They're kind of using it as cool points akin to things like Killstar or a certain style of makeup. And it's really important to understand, especially to an impressionable youth, when we're younger, we look up to people. We naturally want to emulate them. We want to emulate their behaviors. We want to look like them. So when somebody's pushing this lifestyle pretty much down your throat, you're going to naturally want to emulate that and think, well, it doesn't feel natural to me. I'm not really into it, but it's something I'll grow into. Maybe it's something I'll learn to like. Let me tell you something. If it doesn't feel natural to you, it's because it's not. This is not a pair of boots. This is not a style of music. It's not something that you're just going to grow into and learn to like. It's either within you or it's not. So the reason it's also really important that I share this story with you is that it's a cautionary tale. Because if you go into a situation ill-equipped, you're putting yourself in a very dangerous situation. And that's what happened to me. So I could be being a little bit melodramatic, but I want to let you be the judge of that and see what you think here. So I'm just going to get right into it. But before I do that, I want to say that there's a bit of a trigger warning here, because if you are sensitive or triggered by the concept of underage people that have been placed in sexual situations, this is not the video for you. I don't want to cause you any unrest, and I don't want to make you uncomfortable, but this is involving me and something very personal that happened. So with that, I'm going to get on with the story. So it was 1996. And in my area, there were two sort of alternative stores that were quite close to the home, easy to get to. My mother would take me there all the time. You had Utopia and you had Skull City. Skull City was owned by a husband and wife duo, and they were, it's either one or the other that was there at the time. They were never there together. And my mother particularly liked to go to these places because the owners, they were her generation, and my mother being, I guess, a punk biker chick, I don't really know what to class her as, but she liked to converse with them. She liked to go and socialize. So I think we really went there more for her, but it was fine by me because I got to ogle the clothing that I couldn't afford. And Skull City particularly really catered toward the uber goth. They had Begotten, Genie Nitro, 60s, lip service, and all the things that I just loved and couldn't afford. You had your alchemy jewelry. And one day we're there, and the husband is there, and he's talking to my mother and says, oh, by the way, we're opening a new store just down the road. We're going to keep Skull City, but this one is called Dress to Kill. It's going to be much bigger, grander. You're going to love it. And with that, when they opened up, we went. And immediately upon walking in, I noticed it was much bigger. But something else that I noticed is that the aesthetic was more geared toward your sort of BDSM lifestyle. The clothing designers that they went with is more Catherine Coatney. And if you're familiar with Catherine Coatney, have a look. It is very fetish in nature. So you had a lot of Catherine Coatney. We had a lot of latex, corsetry. There were a lot of things with clips and hooks, things that you could attach things to. And a lot of lingerie. And most notably, in the backish area and off to the side was your emporium for everything associated with kink. Your every kink, your every fetish, your every whim was catered to here. And it was a little bit overwhelming because there was a lot of things that I had not seen before, but I kind of kept my distance because it, wasn't really of interest to me anyway. I was a teenager. I liked the clothing. I liked the boots. These are things that interest me. Nothing's really going to get between me and a pair of PVC platform boots. So as we're leaving, my mother says, you're going to be doing a fashion show for the store. And automatically I get a lump in my throat because I don't do well in situations where the spotlight is on me. I don't like being on stage. I don't like any of it. It's the reason that I've gotten into film and not stage. I just don't like it. It freaks me out. But at the same time, I was like, wait a minute. I'll get to model goth wear, all of the clothes that I really, really like. Maybe they'll let me keep something. And I come to find that it's being held at a club night that I'm quite familiar with called Nostradamus that my friends and I frequented. So, hey, double win. I will be able to model goth wear, and I'll do it in front of my peers. I'll be super cool, right? So I show up at Nostradamus, and it's on a different night. So Nostradamus was on a Saturday night, and this was a weeknight. So it was a different night, but I'm like, hey, my friends still can't come because it's a school night, but the elder goths will be there, and perhaps they'll see me as cool. This is what goes through a freaking teenager's brain, right? So I walk in, and my jaw pretty much hits the floor. It is a full-on fetish night, and I am immediately confronted with normal people. There is not a single goth in sight, and these are people that are twice, sometimes 3 times my age, and they're very, very normal. You have people that you would see working in a bank, a teacher from a high school. You notice I said teacher from a high school? That is because I saw a teacher from my high school with her husband doing some very questionable things. I won't mention names because I don't want to get anybody in trouble. This is what I saw. So I'm surrounded by fully fledged, full-scale, normal adult people in fetish attire and doing things that I've never actually seen put into practice. There was like foot worship. I'm not going to get into it, but I'm ushered into the back, and the whole time I'm looking at my mother, because naturally you're in this situation, you look to your parent for guidance. I was freaked out because they saw me and they were looking at me like I was a juicy ass cheeseburger after a 30-day vegan cleanse. I was on display like a piece of meat, and I didn't like it. I did not like the way people were looking at me. It freaked me out. We were walking to the back, right? And the goth room, which is where the night was usually held when I went on Nostradamus, is now the dressing room. So I go in, and there's a lot of, girls back there. They're kind of scrambling. They're getting ready. There's partitions up so people can change or whatever. And I'm met by the wife, owner of the store, and she hands me, the clothes that I'll be wearing in the show. And I am horrified. She knows how old I am. She knows I am 16. She knows I am in high school. She is well aware. But she hands me a pile of fetish lingerie. And I'm thinking, I have to go out on stage in a thong. And in my head, I feel as if I don't have a choice in the situation. I'm a kid. I'm surrounded by adults here. I have no choice. My mother's here. She signed me up for it. There's no saying no. There's no running away. So to me, now in hindsight, I could have just run out that door and gave everyone the middle finger. But in that moment, I felt like I had no choice. I have to do this. The first thing they put me in is basically what I wore under everything the entire night. I wore thigh-high stockings, garter, and a thong. And that was mostly out when it was time to model the lingerie. I remember one of the first things that I was put in was this purple satin and black power mesh kind of teddy with a thong. I had stockings and whatever. And I walk out on stage and I immediately am overcome because I don't feel like this is a fashion show. This is not a fashion show. I'm on display. This is about the kink. This is about being sexualized. And I didn't know how to handle what I was feeling. I felt nauseated. I felt disgusted. I felt scared. I felt betrayed by the adults around me. But as I walk out on stage, the reason I remember the purple outfit is the first thing I heard is some guy screaming, "Purple is my favorite color." So with each outfit, I'm handed, a different accoutrement, such as cat and nine tails. Here's a flogger. Here's a basket of condoms. Throw them out into the audience as you go. And with each outfit, I am just kind of going further and further from reality. And it just seems like another version of myself. And I'm hating every moment of it because every person in that room were looking at me. They weren't looking at the clothes. They were looking at me. And I never felt more my age than in that moment. Seeing me at 16 years old, there is no doubt that I was a kid. There have been times that I have gone to 15 and over events as a 17-year-old, and I almost was not let in because they didn't believe that I was indeed not 15. So I had a baby face. I had that pudgy baby face. There was no way that you could mistake the fact that I was a child. But yet here I am on stage, put in this environment, and I felt angry and frustrated, and I felt so stuck, and all I wanted was to be at home in my pajamas in my bed. That's all I wanted. I wanted my bed, and I wanted to be out of this place and away from these people. Last outfit, and this is when everybody comes out on stage. I'm in some sort of like pleather teddy thing. I don't know. I'm holding a whip, and I'm out on stage first, and everybody comes behind me, and I turn around as everybody is coming on stage. I see the husband who owns the store. He's on his hands and knees with a saddle on his back, wearing nothing but a leather thong, with his wife in a leather bikini with little triangles cut out so that her boobies are out, riding on the saddle. And in her other hand, she is holding a leash, which is attached to a guy's neck who is wearing a gimp mask and nothing else. He is completely butt naked, and everybody's applauding and cheering, and there is now a full display going on. People are being flogged on stage right next to me. Penis guy is this far from me. And the only thing I can think to do is what everybody else is doing. And that's to cheer. And the only thing, honestly, that I can think of that I could possibly cheer about is the fact that this was almost over and I was almost going to be out of there and going home. Now, during this night, I was touched, I was groped, I was grabbed. I was asked by couples who were, twice, 3 times my age to play with them. And I didn't quite understand what playing with them meant. I just knew that it wasn't anything good. And I was mad that I was placed in that situation because I felt really disgusted. Now, something I should mention that was also a feature that night was a photographer that was friends with the owners, and he was part of the night. He was photographing the whole night, following me around, following everybody else around. And he was one of those people, do you ever you meet somebody or you're around somebody and you feel uneasy, something about them, it just doesn't feel right. They feel creepy. And that's the feeling that I got from him. I felt genuinely creeped out by this man's presence, so I tried to kind of stay away. And this is where he sort of comes into play in the story. So I go into the back and I go to get changed, and I'm finally getting changed out of this stuff into my regular clothes, and I'm just happy that I'm soon going to be out of that place. And I probably should add also that there's video footage of the night, because the whole time my mother was there with a friggin' video camera, applauding, screaming, whistling, thinking it's the coolest thing ever. And I was mad about that because, every part of me wanted her to just grab me and pull me out of that place the second she saw everything that was going on, but that's not what happened. The way she is that I was always good for bragging rights, and whenever it came time to be a parent where obligation was on the table, like taking me to the doctor, driving me to school, being a parent, I became a burden. But at this moment, she could scream, "Hey, that's my kid up there," kind of thing. So, I was just friggin' mad about that. But, I'm digressing a bit. Now I'm in the back, I'm changing, and there, like I said, this partition's up, so the only really thing that you can see are the tops of the girls' heads. And now I'm stripped down. I'm wearing nothing but this thong, and completely naked otherwise, just this thong. Here's my clothes. And you ever just get a feeling someone stood right behind you? Yeah, someone was. So I hear clicking, and I just get the feeling of someone behind me. So I turn around and look, and it's that photographer. And he is about 8 inches from my ass, snapping pictures. And I'm not going to emulate his tone, but I'm just going to tell you what he said. But he said it in a way that no man should ever speak to a 16-year-old, because it was a tone that was fueled by utter lust and just perversion. And he said, "You got a great ass," as his explanation for him snapping away inches from my butt. And it was at this point that I just lost it. I started screaming, yelling at people, cursing, saying, "Get the hell away from me. Everybody better fuck off." I must have looked like a crazy person, because now I realized that you can only see my head. That's all you can see. All the other girls, that's all they saw. They don't know this dude's behind me. They don't know why I've just gone off like a switch. They don't realize what has just happened. So, night ends, I go home. And, I ended up telling this story like it was a cool story, like something cool that I did, because at the time, I was much like the person I was describing in the beginning. it's something that you think that you'll grow into. You're just not old enough to understand, but it's still very cool. You just weren't ready for it yet. No, my original instinct was correct. I was correct in feeling disgusted and angry and betrayed, all of those things. Because hindsight is 20/20. As an adult, I would never, ever put a 16-year-old in that situation. Now, was I groped? Was I grabbed? Did I have photographs taken of me underage against my will? And yes, all of those things. All of those things. Did I have a ton of phone numbers given to me on napkins from the bar? Also, yes. But I walked out of there and I got home. I got home safely. I got home okay. I got to sleep in my bed. I got to go to school the next day. And that's what's really important, is that it could have ended so much worse. But it didn't. I was lucky. Now, I realize now, obviously, that I was placed in a very precarious situation. There was nobody around me that I can trust. If anything had happened, I would need to fend for myself. I certainly couldn't rely on anybody around me. All the adults in the room were pretty much just really interested in doing things to me that were not appropriate to do to a 16-year-old. So, like I said, I told the story like I was like the coolest thing ever. I had the videotape for a while. My ex now has it. He probably has thrown it out since, we broke up, I'm guessing almost 20 years ago. So, that being said, I don't want you to find yourself in the very same situation, because like I said, I got home to my bed that night. I got home safely. It doesn't always end that way. If you go into a situation ill-equipped, uninformed, unaware, young, and naive, people can take advantage. And I don't want to see that happen to you. I don't want to see you placed in the situation that I was in. So please just be aware. And if this is something that genuinely does feel intrinsic to your nature, if it's something that you are inclined toward, then explore it, but do it safely. And wait till you're 18. Don't go out meeting people online. Don't do any of those sorts of things. Educate yourself. Really educate yourself. I don't want to see you getting hurt. So, that being said, I think I've talked your ear off enough. And like I said, this is a cautionary tale. So please just be safe. Bye.